where Wuhan is located.
What's going on? Again.
Tens of thousands following. We know tens of thousands of people are heading to airports, bus stations, and train stations to leave Wuhan. More than 50,000 people are expected to leave by train alone. And of course, first COVID-19 case was found in this city about 4 months ago. And at the end of January, a lockdown was quickly put into Wuhan city. But many people who had been traveling to the city to see relatives in Chinese New Year, for a holiday, they found themselves stuck as transit hubs were closed. And now, after more than 2 months, they're finally able to leave as long as they can declare that they have a clean bill of health. Not only by train, buses and planes, but people also taking to roads. There is traffic in Wuhan for the first time in months. The roads and the highways are clogged, particularly leaving the city. But it's not
still telling us
still crazy. Here in China, the epidemic is still present. There are still about 1,000 people in China being treated for COVID-19. And it's not quite back to normal life. Even in Wuhan city,
you can't stay, but you can't tell you say you crazy.
They are able now to move around and leave the city, but it's not the case for everyone. For example, if you are a Wuhan resident and you live in an active case of COVID-19,
can't stand, but you say you crazy.
The entire residential compound will still be in lockdown and people are still confined to their homes. But for the rest of the city, for those areas that are declared to be virus-free, businesses, restaurants and malls are open. The subway has been running for a few days now. But of course, there are important caveats. For example, you have to have your mobile phone. You have to scan pretty much everywhere you go to let the authorities know you have been, to track activity and movement. In case a case is discovered, they can find exactly where you've been. And also, as is with the rest of China, in public areas, you're expected to wear a mask, and temperature checks will be taken pretty much everywhere you go.
Katrina, thank you very much. Katrina Yu is our correspondent in Beijing. To the U.S. now, and voting has ended in the Wisconsin presidential primary, which went ahead despite the coronavirus pandemic. The state is the first in the U.S. to hold a major vote since stay-at-home order implemented. It only went ahead after a last-minute ruling in the Supreme Court. Results aren't expected until next week. Let's speak to Chicago about this. John, a lot of people try to stop this election from going forward. How did it go, and what can we expect from the results?
Well, Foley, maybe a charitable way to put it is chaotic. Other people have been calling this election a number of different things. One of them is undemocratic. Another is irresponsible. Undemocratic because the way it was carried out, there will be a number of people whose votes ultimately probably will not be counted. Irresponsible because the Republican legislature, in order to gain an advantage in this election, spoke about people trying to stop that. That happened yesterday when the governor, Tony Evers, issued a declaration on saying this vote at Supreme Court. Yes, you don't have the authority to do that. And then the U.S. Supreme Court in fact, you can allow
calling somebody crazy
after Election Day, which is Tuesday. That had been something a lower court had agreed to. The Republicans seem to be betting that their voters, being more rural, were not likely to stay home because of the voting places they'd have to go to wouldn't be so good. This is like Milwaukee, the biggest city in Wisconsin, where mostly Democrats seem to be voting. There weren't enough people to go to the polling places. There were 180 polling places, but they could only open 5 of them in a city where 3 people were voting, some by mail, some not. So people stood out in the rain, and they complained they had to do this, stood out there in huge numbers. So ultimately, we find out in about a week what happens. That's we wait for the votes, which have to be postage stamped today on Tuesday. But in the end, much drama about who wins in the Democratic primary. It's between Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden. Joe Biden was about 20 in most, but Republicans really pressed to have this go forward because they've got a lot of local elections that they were hoping to win in general election.
Thank you for that, John Hendren, live for us in Chicago. Crowds in Ivory, a coronavirus testing center in the city of Abidjan, fearing the spread of the illness.
Mobile phone footage captures people destroying the makeshift center built to check them for the virus. Scared and angry, woman shouts, "We are humans. We don't want the coronavirus here, right where we live. We don't want it today or tomorrow."
You know what people are doing?
Cases in Ivory Coast, the virus is spreading rapidly. The government has
They're ruining your life. What they doing? You know what kind of thing they used to do? They used to go hit our car.
fear many more people are
They're
infected
just
without
doing
knowing.
all kind of things.
Some of you
That's
will
what
have
we
a
tell
fever
them.
this evening, or even earlier.
They
Others
go hit
will
your
cough
car.
or have a sore throat. Feel strange. Don't worry. All the districts of Abidjan will have these centers in place to facilitate, and it's not just for testing, it's to provide information.
What I see they want there when you
This
were young.
crisis is revealing the level of trust people have for the government and health services. Ivorian football star DJ Drogba took to social media after two French
She was
doctors
young.
in Lille in Ivory Coast, which are used to detect viruses. Many people are beginning experiments involving a virus they believe comes from Europe.
I don't think this place is appropriate because it's an illness. If we know how it spreads, so if we need to set up a hospital of this kind, they should put it outside the city.
The government is seeking to reassure people, saying that no testing
About that. So you come around and for you to just play. Oh, they just talking all kind of thing, money. I said, just doing all kind of thing.
Number of infections of 3,700. Two-thirds of those cases are being reported. The city of Hawaii says it's moving up containment measures there, and temporary rules have been set up to deal with the number of deaths. A lot of discussion about world leaders who apparently are minimizing the impact of
That's all they see people that they will start doing it.
Nicaragua has perhaps gone one step further.
Oh, yeah. They just start all kind of things, more than all kind of things. They just they're really talking it.
This was the last time Daniel Ortega was seen in a video conference with the month ago. While he disappeared, the vice president has been telling everyone else to go out as normal.
Here in our Nicaragua, all of our authorities report normality in all actions and activities.
They say, going into Easter, borders, beaches and bars have been open. Beauty pageants have been held. And the government itself has events like this march entitled Love in the Times of COVID-19. Even the apparently seeing a surge in international popularity because almost every other country is closed. There has fewer than 10 cases, but governmental transparency and reporting figures has been questioned.
You don't do nothing to
Now has been concerned about the response to COVID-19 as seen in Nicaragua. We have concerns for the lack of social distancing, the convening of mass gatherings, concerns about the testing, contact reporting of cases.
I asked former health minister and now government critic Dora Maria Tellez why is keeping everything open.
This is all dominated by the narrative of the Ortega Murillo family dictatorship, which sells the story that this is a perfect country, a happy one. Don't get and anyone who says that someone could be sick or dead with COVID-19, the official propaganda is that this is tearing the government down.
That and the fact that Nicaragua's economy has already been decimated. But now that everything is open for Easter, the question remains, why isn't President Ortega fun? John Holman, Al Jazeera.
The military is stepping in Colombia to help with the Army helicopters are monitoring messages over main cities, advising people to comply with national quarantine measures. Just one person per family will continue to the streamings and fines. Colombia has recorded more than 1,500 cases and over 40 coronavirus-related deaths. 90-year-old New Yorker who beats coronavirus is offering advice on surviving.
Here she is. Hi, Mom.
Anna Fortunato, meaning lucky in Italian, beaks.
Miracle. Maybe I was, but I worked at it. Let me tell you something. I am tough. One is positive thinking. Keep on fighting. Have that positive attitude and pray and get out of bed. Don't stay in bed all the time. Even if you sit in a chair, you have to move a little. And I want to say to them, if I did it, you can do it.
What out,
Hello again, I'm fully back to go with the headlines on Donald Trump accused the agency of being too China instead of giving bad advice. His comments come as the U.S. recorded 2,000 virus-linked deaths in the last.
They actually criticized and disagreed. They called it wrong.
The girl sent it, yeah.
Months earlier, they would have known.
They
should have known. And they probably did know.
Has become the fourth country to register more than 10,000 COVID-19 linked deaths. The country has been in lockdown since mid-March, government restrictions. And the UK's Prime Minister is spending a second night in intensive care. Boris Johnson is said to be in stable condition.
Now they start sending what want to you. They tell you this is how they will do it. That's why we never touch it. Come out now. I think they will just be all day.
Government says it's ramping up containment measures. You're up to date with headlines on Al Jazeera. As always, more news on our website, aljazeera.com. Coming up next, Walls of Shame. Do stay with us.
When a prime minister takes a lump of coal, that coal means a lot to the country's fortunes.
We bring you the stories and developments that are rapidly changing
on Al Jazeera.
In 2002, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict was further inflamed on what Israel described as separation.
Making people to be living in the bus. I said, but you make somebody to live in the bus. You make somebody, I don't know what kind of sense they got a house, they got a person talking about. When I be living in that kind of house. They're doing bad things though. We go there for fun.
Now it's easier, it's faster, it's less than when you turbo block it. Let's
why Japan? Where man like that? Let me talk. Hold that. Come. Look at. Let me talk. Man, go drink some. feeding. I got money. I get off my feet. White I bought it. That's what I had there. Not I don't gone.
Just over 7 kilometers so far. It's costing $2 million every kilometer. Splitting neighbor villages.
Again, we're getting you one.
It's the level ramp. All permits. Click now for details on the ramp upgrade program.
Security reason. This fence is only for blocking the way.
And yet, plans for the division of Israel and Palestine predate the relative month of suicide attacks. The plans were decades in the making.
Essentially, the claim this country, from the Mediterranean to the Jordan River, exclusively other collectivity. This is our country, exclusively. Period.
The names Professor Sharon come up repeatedly in any discussion of the war. Soffer, the ideologue who first drew the maps for construction of a war in the 1980s. But it was the politician Sharon who put the reality on the ground.
Yeah.
He was elected.
So that one they go to the hospital.
This very important evening, he called me to bring him
they
next
made
day.
false crime, they grabbed them, made false crime.
My important disengagement. Not to sit with him, but to give him my map, because my map was ready. Ask me how I did the map. I would say 90% Russian demography, 2-3% holy sites, and maybe 70 if we would like to keep Jewish democratic state. We cannot enjoy the luxury of having all of power, because demography is the most deterministic factor in our problem at the moment.
Force behind the erection of the wall, it fell to Israeli Prime Minister Sharon to allay the